Hi, I'm Ben, and welcome to my review corner. Today we're taking a look at Neuromancer by William Gibson. This has actually been quite a hard book for me to review in many regards due to the fact that it's seen by many people as a cornerstone and foundational work of the cyberpunk genre, and has helped to define and popularise many of the aspects that you find in the books that have followed in its wake. Released back in 1984, the question right now is, after nearly 40 years, is this book still worth your time, or has it been surpassed by works that have been released since? As normal, this review will dive into story first, followed by world building, characterization, writing style, and I will end with my final thoughts. So, let's get into it. The story is told from the point of view of Case, a down on his luck ex-computer cowboy who had his ability to interface with the World Wide Web burnt out of him following his betrayal of his employer. A mysterious benefactor comes forward and restores his ability to jack back in, but that comes with a price, and that price is that if he doesn't help, it'll be burned right back out of him again. And so begins a worldwide jaunt, doing setups and cons, and getting used to once again being able to ride the waves of the network before they finally move on to their final target, one of the oldest, most powerful and most prestigious megacorporations in the modern world. In many ways, this book is structured in a way similar to how a heist would be, but in a far more high-tech setting. As a result, this is a fast-paced narrative that jaunts all around the world and gets to see multiple different cultures and various different elements of the cyberpunk culture that we've come to see in other books since. It's a decent story that's executed with great pace and has some terrific set pieces in there. World building is where this book is easily at its best. The world is exquisitely detailed in many ways. From the descriptions of the busy, flickering, dirty neon streets, to the body mods that become almost fashion accessories in some areas, to the contrast between the gleaming, clean, high society areas to the low-life areas of the cities and beyond, and also the depictions of the hedonistic excess of society as it is portrayed during this period. This feels like Cyberpunk 101 in many ways. Anyone who's ever read a Cyberpunk book, watched a Cyberpunk inspired film, or played a Cyberpunk inspired game will easily be able to visualise this world, as there are so many holdovers even now in those forms of media. This even goes as far as the natural evolution of country names, and also brand identity is also touched upon, where many brands that we know from today, for example Sony, Hitachi and Mitsubishi, have moved into new areas of business which make complete sense for where those businesses are today. The world building goes so far as to differentiate the different cultures and the different countries as well, in terms of architecture, different body mods which are fashionable in those areas, music, and far more subtle ways. In many ways, this does feel like this is the blueprint for modern cyberpunk. The entirety of the story is told from the point of view of the main protagonist, Case, and there's a small group of supporting characters that appear throughout the book. Unfortunately, while it is clear that each character has their own individual personalities and motives, there is very little true depth to any of them. Often the only real backstory you get is snapshots of events from the past, but these rarely have any real impact on the story, except with a couple of exceptions. Sadly, this is also true of Case. While he gets more backstory than most, as you would expect, he's largely portrayed as a one-note maverick, ex-addict who has been cut off and will do anything to get that next hit and then keep getting it. He isn't done badly, but certainly not as developed as the world in which he lives. And in many ways, the characters feel more like a vehicle for the plot to go from point A to point B, set piece to set piece. To call this book aesthetically descriptive is to undersell the writing on display. The world is vividly emphasised, not just in terms of imagery, but also smells, tastes, sounds, and even the people moving around, and has the whole atmosphere, and it's clear to see why this is seen as a foundational text for cyberpunk in general. The plot is well paced, if a bit quick for my personal taste. However, this does lead to time being an important element, especially in the final third when they're doing the move on the mega corporation. However, due to the hyperfixation on the world building, the character work does at times suffer. However, ultimately, the story is more about the world in general and how the world has changed, or how the world needs to change going into the future. One point I would like to add is that due to the frenetic pace and the globe-trotting on display, I occasionally felt lost and disorientated within the world that was being displayed. This may have actually been deliberate, especially from the point of view of the character that we're following. However, it may just have been an issue that I personally had with the book and felt I should mention it for posterity. So overall, this was a very fast-paced book. It was incredibly descriptive of the world it was trying to portray. It did a really good job with the pure world building in terms of visuals, sounds, and cultures. Where this book does fall down is on the individual, however, as its focus on this tends to be secondary to the world as a whole, but it's clear to see why this book is so important to cyberpunk as a genre as a whole, and you quite often see a lot of the echoes of this in future media of all kinds. For that reason, I would personally say that if you're a fan of cyberpunk, this becomes a must-read, or if you're looking at a book to read in general that is important to any genre, this is another one that you should check out. Personally, I found this quite hard and quite disorientating at times, but I cannot get past how well written the pure descriptive points of this book were. I'm going to give this a conditional 4 stars out of 10, based purely on the aesthetic elements that this portrays, but I would have liked a longer book with more focus on characters. And that's it for today's review. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.